Refresh Franchising, the heroic choice for entrepreneurs, proud sponsor of the Distilled Wisdom podcast.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today on Distilled Wisdom. Our guest is Eric Snider today. Eric owns Unity Property and Pest. Unity Property and Pest offers property inspection and pest control services throughout Northeast Ohio. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam.
No worries. So, Eric, tell me a little bit about your company. Tell me about Unity.
So we're a property inspection and pest control company here in the Northeast Ohio, specializing in real estate inspections, people buying and selling properties that want us to come in, and give it a full overhaul before they purchase a property. Specialize in radon testing, sewer scopes, and all pest control services.
That's fantastic. Have you been in pest control long?
I've been in the pest control industry. That's actually how I started. I've been in it about 10 years now. I started with a company out of the Cleveland area, bigger privately owned company. And I actually fell into that by chance, really. So I used to work at the hospital, Akron City Hospital, worked there for a couple of years, and they switched all of our departments over to part-time. So that being, I needed a job. I couldn't survive on part-time work. So I was just looking for just anything, really. My brother-in-law at the time was working with a major company out of the Cleveland area, and he's the one who got me into the pest control industry to begin with. So at first, it was something that I just wanted to do briefly, or just needed something to be able to just pay my bills. But jumping on and starting to learn that trade, I really fell in love with it. Fell in love with some of the veterans that were really just teaching me all the ins and outs about the pest control industry and how to be successful at it. And that's really, that's what ended up happening as far as like me being able to stick through it and learn the trade, which is how I ended up into the home inspection industry, because so all the local, home inspectors in the area, real estate agents, when you're buying properties, a lot of them require, especially VA, they require termite inspections, VA, WDI, wood destroying insect inspections. So our company was hired out quite a bit to do some of these for local home inspectors and realtors. And I was the one that was on the termite crew. I was going out and doing a lot of these inspections for them. So I was able to meet a lot of the home inspectors in my area. And as a result, I really became good friends with one of them. And I seen everything, and I seen how he would go about his process about being a home inspector. It was something that really intrigued me and interested me.
So is this something that led into, Unity and Unity Property and Pest? This is kind of like the inspiration behind it, as you saw how they work together? Or?
Well, it's just a benefit. So, becoming a home inspector, after I was able to meet this gentleman, I took a leap of faith, and it was just something I was intrigued by and interested in. So when I jumped out and I became a home inspector, he sent me to school, worked under him, and he shared with me everything, all of his knowledge about the industry and what it takes to really become a great home inspector. Now, as a result of that, I realized the benefits of the two. So I worked under him for about 4.5 years as a home inspector. And we started I'll back up just briefly and say how those two really go hand in hand with one another. But, as a result, I see how the two really go hand in hand. I see how by being a home inspector, it makes me a better PCO, pest control professional, and by being a pest control and an exterminator, how that really goes hand in hand with being a better home inspector. The two just really supplement one another.
That makes a lot of sense. I could see that, especially, I know you personally. So for the viewers / listeners out there, Eric's a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for years. So a lot of the questions I'm asking, I actually know the answers to, because, we've been kind of hand in hand throughout your business journey. But I could see that because you focus on realtors a lot, and you offer a lot to realtors, and using that to network through with the property inspection, gaining pest control, contracts. That's pretty ingenious, honestly. Can you tell me a little bit more about the company? Because I think it's important for the listeners to understand that relationship you had with your former employer. I know it ended on kind of a rocky road, and but I think it's important because we're trying to educate entrepreneurs and people going into business, and you have one of those oh shit moments, right? Where your world got kind of turned upside down when you partnered with your former employer and decided to branch out on your own. And I think it's a lesson worth telling. So.
Sure. So my former employer, he was one of my closest friends. He was my mentor. Like I said, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today had I not been under his leadership. Just everything that he taught me about the home inspection industry. We had started a pest control company together, him and I. But the problem I started noticing, but while we were trying to do this, was that we were partners on one thing and I was still an employee on the other. So there was still I still had to pay my bills and I still had to help him with his company while we were trying to find time to build this together, and it just wasn't working. And, I had really kind of hit a ceiling on, just where I was able to grow with his company. So there was no hard feelings.
Even as an owner?
Well, I mean, because we were only partners on the one. So if we would have jumped off on the other, it would have been, he still had another business to run. He still had his business, his livelihood, and he still had his family he had to take care of. So no matter what, it would have unfortunately been a little bit more one-sided. Gotcha. So I realized this, and it was just one of these things to where it's okay, the next logical step would be me going out on my own. So, I allowed him to keep the company that we had started together, because a lot of them were on his resources. And, I gave him extended notice. I, agreed to stay on if he decided to hire a replacement for me. I was going to stay on, help train, whatever the case may be, because I cared about him. I didn't want anything. I didn't want any bad blood there or anything like that. There was just the next step I needed to take in my journey. When I did that, I guess it was probably within the first week after that, I've served with paperwork, for a lawsuit. And this was kind of a scary time for me, only because I had developed a very small nest egg at the time for me to be able to pay my bills for the first few months while I'm trying to jump out into this unknown area that I had never experienced before. And in doing so, I was served with those paperwork, with the lawsuit, and we ended up.
What was he actually suing you for? I mean, what were the conditions? What was the claim? What was the actual legal claim?
Well, there was a bunch. There's always that legal verbiage in it, to where there was several things. But basically, I had an unfair advantage of the inner workings of his company in a similar workplace.
So essentially, a non-compete.
Yeah. So it wasn't that with home inspections, with the pest control, even though I was giving him the company, which was understandable. But, so for the first 12 months, I wasn't able to do pest work. I wasn't able to do any kind of pest control, market for it, anything. And, obviously
for an entire year.
And then, to make matters worse, a couple weeks after that, COVID happened. The state got shut down.
So he won the judgment.
I settled it. I only settled it just because in my where I was at, I could not financially fight it, because I was walking out under this with just a couple pennies to rub together, because I was taking a big leap of faith. I had no money to try to fight this. I kind of had to bow out, and accept those terms and accept those conditions.
Okay. So you accept 1 year without half your business, and then you get nailed with COVID. Mm-hmm. This is a pretty rough start.
It was a rough one. I was kind of down and out, before I even had a chance to get up and running. So what ended up happening, I was oh, I got a mortgage, I got a family here, I got bills to pay. So I was in a pickle. So I ended up, I found a job working night shift out at Owens Corning in Medina, Ohio. They make fiberglass asphalt.
So you
shingles.
took regular employment while you were starting your business. This is the reason I'm stressing this is there's people that are thinking about going into business for themselves, and when you're starting something from the ground up, right? It's not going to cover your bills right away, right? You have to reinvest in it. And so that's fantastic, by the way. Kudos to you.
Yeah. Cards the first year I'd said pest control come in 2021, and
that had to be so frustrating.
It was aggravating. Part of me was angry, but at the end of the day, like, I knew what I was capable of. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted it to look like. I knew what I was chasing, what I was running after. But then, I had to realize that I was also stuck on a certain side of fear. So my goal when I first started that job was 3 months. I was just going to, 3 months, I was going to stack up a little bit of money, have enough to pay my bills, and just make that leap. Well, I ended up being there a year. I ended up being there my whole first year, and that was a rough year.
It sounds like you weren't sleeping.
Yeah, it was a rough year, and it was a rough year for the people in my life at the time too. Family, friends, people close to me and stuff. I probably wasn't the easiest guy to be around that first year because all I did was work and barely slept.
So let's hone in on that a little bit. Let's talk about some of the sacrifices early on in business. I think this is overlooked, right? Everything's sensationalized today. When you hear the gurus and they tell you about, just get an LLC, start a business, it's no big deal. And it's super easy. They don't talk about the emotional toll. They don't talk about the toll on the family, the friends, the girlfriend, the wife, whatever. Right. Through that period, how did you maintain your personal relationships, right? Like, how do you give the attention when you're sleeping 3 hours and working the rest, right?
Yeah. I guess I was lucky for the people I did have in my life because they stuck it out. Because, personal relationships, the relationship I had, family, they were all strained. People were always on edge, because I was never present. I was never available because I was always either sleeping for the very limited few hours that I could, and I was working. I mean, at Owens Corning, when I was out there, it was 48 hours. I couldn't just be like, well, I'm only going to do this part time. They're like, no, it's 48 hours. So I'm like, I was putting 48 hours in there, and then I was surely doing that with my business because I wanted it to grow and I didn't want to have to be there any longer than I had to, but I got stuck on that fear because I got stuck with that weekly paycheck. I got stuck with that constant knowing that it was going to come. And with the business going out of your own, it's a lot of it is just chance. A lot of it's just going out there and just taking that leap of faith and grinding until you get it. So you don't have that weekly, you don't have that guaranteed paycheck coming in on Friday. So I can see why that can, stunt some people from making that leap because it is scary, especially when you got bills and everything else like that. But
do you think anybody should go into business, or do you think it takes a certain person, a certain personality, or do you think anybody's capable of doing business? It's mixed out there. Yeah, some people that, they're of the thought process that anybody can go out there and start a business. And then you have others that, no, not everybody can. Because, and I'm one of the latter, by the way.
Sure.
I don't think everybody can. I don't think it is for everybody. The society needs employees. We need people that are going to, more or less that they don't want to sacrifice, right? That they want to work and get a check and support themselves.
Sure.
Do you agree, or do you feel
sure.
that's different, or that anybody can do this? And the nonsense you hear where everybody can open a business, right?
I don't necessarily think. I guess everybody possibly could if they were willing to sacrifice and make those sacrifices and put in that time and have that fire burning in their belly and everything that it really takes to go through some of them dark times. Some of them, especially at the very beginning, that was scary. I'm like, as soon as I went out on my own, I'm like, well, this is already stopping. Like mentally at first, there was a few days where I'm like, well, I'm already underwater here. But I know there's a lot of people that feel safe with just doing a 9 to 5 or something like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Some people, it's just what they want to do and they're comfortable with that. And, I tip my hat to them for it. It's just not something that I ever wanted to do. I know I wanted more. And that's just kind of how my personality is. It's how I've always been driven.
Well, where did that come from? Why do you want more? What separates people, right? Yeah, some people are content. Some people aren't. What drove you to actually go through all this pain, right?
If I really think about it, it's just something that I wanted to be able to provide a great life for my family, possibly even leave something for them, just have a legacy for them. But I also always wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to have to punch a clock. I didn't want to have to somebody tell me to be there by 9 a.m. and have to be there by 9 a.m. and have to stay there to a certain time. I like to have, I gave up a 9 to 5 for a lot more than that. I work a lot more than that, but at the same point, like it's something that I get to build. It's something that I'm creating, that I've taken from nothing and turned into something, with the help of a lot of people. That's not something I was ever able to do by myself. If it would have been left to just me, but the resources, the people in my life, the people I've surrounded myself with, none of this would be possible without them.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. How's your circle? They talk about this all the time on social media and all the gurus and shit. Mm-hmm. Do you have that strong circle of support around you? So I don't know if you want to discuss this, but, you're in recovery, right? Mm-hmm. So people don't always realize, by the way, this is for the audience out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody has struggles. Everybody goes through shit, right? Everybody's got that dark story where, my mommy didn't love me or whatever it is. So everybody's dealing and contending with those things. But I believe, and quote, correct me if I'm wrong, but you found support through AA, right? Mm-hmm. And has that been valuable in business? Has that carried over in any way?
Oh, yeah. Well, 12-step recovery saved my life. And that happened long before I went out on my own with business. I wouldn't have been here today or been able to do everything that I'm capable of doing today without recovery. For me, I'm a recovered alcoholic addict. My life was a mess, for a very long time,
Been there, brother.
Mm-hmm. I just celebrated 7 years sober back in January. And
congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And that led me into all kinds of things. That led me to meet with people and to a relationship with God, which is a huge aspect of my life and my circle today. It always really starts with that. And everybody has some form of faith, whatever it might be, or some opinion on what that is for them. But for me, it was God, and without that, I wasn't able and capable of doing all the other things. I wouldn't be here today without my relationship with him and everything that has happened since I put down the drink.
So outside of your support group with AA, mm-hmm. What about in business? Do you have people that have inspired you, people that have supported you along the way?
Oh, yeah.
And how did you locate those people, right? I think that's really important to the listener. How do you get in touch with these people? How do you find them? And, how do you find somebody to mentor you through the initial stages? Because until you're actually established, right, it's hard to get an audience with these people.
Sure. So, at the very beginning, it was people that were in different businesses than me. So people like, just you, and what I mean by that is like, I was able to watch you in everything that you started. I remember when you started this and just seeing your drive and seeing everything that you were, I was watching all along. I always watch people, so it started with like people like you and, people in my local area reaching. I just had this knack to where I would just call and reach and ask questions. There was other home inspectors in my area where I'd call and I'd ask questions. I'd see successful home inspectors in my area. It's like, hey, can I ask you some questions? Like, I'm not trying to infringe on your business or anything like that.
And they would actually entertain you though. I did, for some weird reason, you and I just kind of clicked when I met you, but hey, I've done that in the past too. Like my earlier years, it was difficult, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, fuck you, who are you, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of that. So maybe I'm not as persistent as you are or something, but, it sounds like you got good results with just reaching out, but they actually took your call, took your time. And I'm talking about real established people, right?
Not all of them did. A lot of them did. But I'm not afraid to ask questions either. So I've had people say, yeah, I'm not interested, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I still try. But there was a couple local home inspectors, a buddy of mine, Steve, he's out of the Copley area. He's an established home inspector in our area. I can remember at the very beginning, I was constantly calling him, asking him questions, his thoughts, his opinions, his experience with certain things, what worked and what didn't. And then, I know, with Facebook and social media, I started getting plugged in with some of these pest groups, that are involved with other pest groups around the country. And I just started getting involved and started trying to get active with some of these groups, going to some of these conferences and meeting people and trying to network that way. And now my circle's all over the country. I got a great guy down in the Miami, Florida area, Frank. He's great. He's constantly available to ask questions. I got my coach now, Alan, who I love. I do a Thursday class with him every week. It's a master's pest class. Me and some of my technicians are involved with every Thursday that we're doing. And Alan, I also do some coaching with him every 2 weeks now. We're starting to meet on a bi-weekly basis because they are where I want to go. They've been where I'm trying to get to. Maria, I love her to death, and Tony Sorrentino with Pest Pros out of Michigan, wonderful company. They've done some retreats to where they've invited me in the Northeast Ohio area.
Have you gone?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm leaving again Wednesday. I'm driving out to Michigan to stay over there in Kalamazoo with them, and we're doing a pest management course out there as well. But it's those kind of people to where they had no hesitation. I would call them, I'd ask them, I can't tell you how many times I've asked them questions, pros, cons, this is what I'm encountering, this is what I fumbled, this is where I dropped the ball, and like, what's your experience, what's your experience, what's your experience, because these are the people I'm trying to lean into, and I wouldn't be here today without these people and their guidance.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. Trying to do it alone, right, is damn near impossible. Mm-hmm. You need that support group around you, and that's really, really important that you gain the right connections and you're listening to the right voices, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had this too, where you have outside individuals that aren't in business mm-hmm. and they have more or less the employee mindset. Mm-hmm. Those people can, their heart's in the right place a lot of times.
Sure.
But they drag you down, and so this is crucial to identify the circle that you that'll truly support you going forward.
Absolutely,
yeah. I think that's honestly one of the biggest takeaways. Anybody listening to this, that's probably the number one takeaway of this show today. Mm-hmm. Is having the right not necessarily connections, but the right people to support you through the journey that can actually answer your questions. If you're listening to your mom and your dad, but your mom and your dad have been employees the whole time, it's terrible advice. Mm-hmm. You don't want to listen to them. You want somebody that's actually accomplished what you're in business doing.
Well, I want somebody that's been where I'm trying to get to. Those are the people that I want to lean into and listen to. I mean, like my mother, I love her to death. She's wonderful. But she, she plays it safe in a lot of ways because she just wants to make sure I'm always safe and I'm protected and nothing bad happens to me and everything. But with ideas with the business and growing and stuff like that, she's usually not my first go-to just because I need to be leaning towards somebody that has been where I'm trying to get to.
Your parent will give you great love advice, but when it comes to business, unless they're in business, you don't want to necessarily take their advice, on that aspect. It's completely understandable. So I think we are actually reaching our commercial break. And by the way, this podcast is sponsored by Refresh Franchising, my mm-hmm. company. So we're going to take a quick break here and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. So while we were on break and you were listening to whatever my wonderful commercial is that I put together, we decided to hop into some interesting topics. And I think one of the most important ones is going to be what position you hire for first when you're ready to hire. So Eric, who did you hire? What was the one that made the difference when you were growing your business, in the early stages? Like, what took the most pressure off you?
Well, my admin, my office administrator. I hired a lady, local here, Shanley. She's been wonderful. She came on with me in October and has really been a godsend. You know, obviously there's always the beginning things, the quirks and the kinks and everything that we're starting to work out, but she's really, you know, starting to get dialed in and comfortable in her position. But that was not my first hire, and it should have been. My first hire, I ended up,
You know, here at Refresh Franchising, we actually require that our franchisees start with an admin. I agree with you. It is one of the most important roles in a business by far. The owner just doesn't have time. Sorry to cut you off here.
Oh, no, absolutely. You're spot on with that. Cause, it was getting to the point. So I was rolling by myself at first. Last year I hired a guy on. He was my first guy I hired on, and it helped me with the workload, but it didn't change my job duties because I was still in the field full time. I was still answering calls. I'm still doing scheduling. And then with my job, you know, some of the places I go into, crawl spaces, attics, some of the,
So you're doing invoicing while you're covered in dirt and cobwebs?
well, I've scheduled plenty of job from a crawl space. You know, I've had people, you know, call in and I'm like, hold on, let me check my schedule. I'm in pitch black, laying on my belly, scheduling jobs in the crawl space. You're like, things. I'm like, nah, we gotta hire somebody on for this. So that was obviously the next one that I ended up going with because it just was something I should have done from the very beginning. Some of my other, my buddies that, you know, are starting out on their own, that's been their first hire. So they did make the first move, which was the smart move, just because it just is too much.
It's, you know, it's not even an overly high payroll expense either. They're crucial to the business, but at the same time, it's not like it's not a huge skill set. So the payroll is not astronomical, right? And the time it frees up, it's just you're able to produce instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. The second you hire them, you're able to double your revenue in your business.
So, and that was the part, like, so there's always parts of me that get stuck on the side of fear, you know, because it's an expense. It's another expense. And then more than that, though, somebody's livelihood, their family and everything is reliant on it. So it's scary. And at the time when you first make that move, at least for me, this is just my personal experience. It's like a, you know, pain in the gut. You're like, oh God.
Well, how do you deal with that, right? I mean, I know how I deal with it. I drink a bottle of bourbon and I get stressed out. But no, seriously, you know, when you're adding on payroll and you're adding expenses to your business, what do you look at when you're doing that?
Well, also I look at my sheets, I look at all my numbers, but still, it's just like, you know, that fear. Like, is business going to be here next week? You know, it's just one of those things it's just a little bit of fear, but it's talking to the right people, talking to the people that are in my corner, my people in my circle, running ideas by them, running pros and cons and everything like that. But like you said, the moment I was able to hire her on, she was able to take so much from me that was able to free me up to actually do what I'm really good at. And that's getting out there, networking with people, meeting clients, you know, doing sales, things that I should have been doing that I was not able to do because I was doing all those other things on my schedule as well as being in the field full time. It was too much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Citizens of Distilled Wisdom, gather around and listen up. If you're a fan of the show and want to join forces with its host, Adam Ferracane, then Refresh Franchising is the perfect choice for you. So gather your courage, summon your inner superhero, and visit refreshfranchising.com to launch your heroic franchise journey. Refresh Franchising, the heroic choice for entrepreneurs, proud sponsor of the Distilled Wisdom podcast.
How did your business change when that happened, right? Like, what was the impact? The second you bring in that admin, what did revenues do? You know, what was your actual growth from that?
So the first, you know, obviously at the very beginning, there's that learning curve. You know, there's training her on my systems and everything. Training her on a job. She was doing ride-alongs with me. She was doing ride-alongs with some of my guys. And from there, but the moment she was able to get it and get a hold of it and able to start taking all the phone calls, and we went through, I can't tell you how many times we did, just going through trainings until she felt comfortable, because I didn't want to just be like, all right, to the wolves, best of luck to you.
If you asked my first admin that question, she would say she got zero training, and she doesn't understand that her training was under fire, but it was done on purpose.
Yeah. And there's still parts, where Shanley will just, my phone rings, because Shanley's, got a question or anything else like that. But she knows that she can call me and we can walk through those things, but it has been instrumental in just my time to develop and work on what I actually need to work on in the business, which is actually working with our customers, working with our clients, providing better services, doing other trainings, adding in other jobs, things that I was not able to do before because I just didn't have the time. We did not have the time. So it's been just instrumental. And then that with just revenue coming in and being able just to provide top tier service for our clients now, because we are free to be able to do it, has been.
Completely get it.
Yeah.
Let's switch things over a little bit. Let's talk about marketing for a second. So you have a unique marketing, strategy. Today, everybody thinks social media, right? That's important. Don't get me wrong. But let's talk about your network marketing, right? Your pursuit with real estate agents and, with larger clients. I know you just landed a pretty good contract with Papa John's? Tell me how you go about landing these types of contracts.
Getting out and getting FaceTime with these people. Seeing what services they're being provided. Are they happy with their services? How we can try to, remain affordable, but also just give them that top tier service that they might not be getting right now. But that just comes with experience and just meeting these people. I believe in my product. I believe in our service well enough because I've worked for other companies. I've learned what not to do. I've done a lot in the years. That's just what we were trained to do in a lot of companies, what not to do moving forward if you want to be a successful.
Do you know what the number one way to prevent the what not to do section is?
I don't. What do you mean?
Buy a franchise.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It kind of solves it. Sorry, I'm a little biased here because, I'm a franchisor. But
sure.
The reality is if you buy a franchise, you prevent flushing so much money down the drain. If I didn't have I have a different ambition level than the average business person. They want to establish a business, build a business, and have something, of value, right? I want to build something that is fucking global, right? So I have to own the brand. But if I didn't have to own the brand, I would franchise all the way, in a heartbeat. And shit, I might buy other people's franchises later. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I mean, buy a McDonald's. You want to retire early? You want to retire quick? Buy a fucking franchise. Buy a McDonald's. Buy a Wendy's. Set it up. You're going to make a killing, and you're not going to even have to run it, and everything's just problem solved for you.
Sure.
Have you thought about that with your business? Like, I know you're way too far down this rabbit hole, right?
Yeah. Gone too far to turn back.
But if you had to do it over, would you consider that?
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, something that already has like a proven system and already has all the kinks worked out. I mean, I started in a Chevy Malibu with a pest sprayer in my back seat, man. So, I mean, yeah, I had to work through all the kinks and, had to learn the hard way in a lot of ways, what doesn't work, what does work. I've wasted a lot of money in other areas that I should, would have been obviously better suited in other areas.
I'd say I'd flushed millions, literally millions, just learning different things. Right?
Sure.
So what's in the future for Eric, right? What do you want to do with your company? What direction do you want to take? Are you going to be a franchisor? You're going to come join me at some point? Or are you, do you plan on going corporate model? Do you plan on scaling out on a corporate model?
I mean, obviously we're a long way away from that. But I would like to grow. I mean, that's the goal here. That's what we're working towards. Working with a lot of people.
I'm sorry. I don't think you're that far away from it. But
well, sure. I mean, I guess that's hard to, I guess I just want to see what the future holds here, at least in the next year. I really am excited about 2023 on the direction we're going right now. Here we are, a couple weeks out from spring, man. We were able to skate right through this winter. I'm super excited about my team. I'm super excited about some of the goals that we have listed for 2023. And I'm excited to see what this year holds for us. But as far as being able to grow, as far as if I'm going to go corporate or franchising, I'm not exactly sure yet. Franchising would be a wonderful model. Corporate would also be a good one, but franchising, it just, it's going to be something that you and I are probably going to be talking to a lot more in the future.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Assuming I have the fucking time. I started this show with like 0 time. I don't have the time to even do this show at the moment. But you know what? I thought it was important to the listeners, and you got to have something you enjoy.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not here to talk about me, but that's literally the reason of this show, is just because I want to give back. You know, I want to help people that decide to take this journey. And if I can offer one little piece of advice or one little nugget for them out of this show that helps them, I won.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
For sure. I got a fun question for you.
Sure.
You look so serious.
Well, you're like, fun. I'm like, well, is it fun?
See, so for the listeners out there, so Eric doesn't drink because, he's recovered. I think we discussed this already on the show, but I'm a lush. So hence the name of the show. So we're going to tell the story on how distilled wisdom became distilled wisdom. I had a conversation with, I got my team together, and we started trying to come up with names for the show. And I told them it has to summarize me, right? So the show has to summarize me in some way. Mm-hmm. And my operations manager put a description of me into an AI thing. And that spit out distilled wisdom. And that's where the name of the show came from. So I didn't actually name this show.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He essentially said, okay, bourbon, smokes a lot, and is intelligent, I guess. I don't know what the fuck he put in there, but we got back distilled wisdom. And so that's where the name of the show came from. But, so what really drives Eric to, own a business instead of just getting the 9 to 5? Like, what are the benefits? We talk about the sacrifices and everything on the show, but what are the real benefits of being in business for you?
Well, there is a lot of sacrifices. I've experienced that and learned that over the years. But I just couldn't do a 9 to 5. It's just not something I ever wanted to do. I did it.
Me neither. I could never go back to that shit.
I did it, and I'm grateful for every job I had along the way. It's made me to who I am today. My experience that I've learned, people I've met, but that in and out 9 to 5, it's just not something I can see myself doing. Working for myself, I mean, this is just something that I put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and as a result, you see what you see today. Obviously with the people in my life and everything else, and of course our customers that we just absolutely love. I mean, without them, none of this would be possible. But it's that drive to get up every single day and to just try to build something. That's what I love, even when it's chaotic, and it's always chaotic. There's always chaos, but I love that. Even though I complain about it sometimes, but it's just like, in those moments, it's like, let me complain, but I thoroughly love it. I really couldn't see myself doing anything different. I don't think I would ever want to do anything different.
Okay. So smoking on camera is bad apparently these days, but we're going to fucking do it anyway because I'm an unhealthy person, and this is one of my flaws. Business people are not fucking perfect. They all display themselves like they're fucking perfect. I have vices. I have problems just like everybody else. I know you do too.
Sure.
Right? But what's one thing that you work towards in your life what's one thing that you do that really makes the difference every day when you go into your business, right? something for you, not for the business, for you. Like what keeps you on track?
Ooh, well, a lot of people call it meditation. All right, so meditation for me is a little bit different than when I say that word. What might come to your mind. So I start my day. I get up early. I make a pot of coffee. I have a cup of coffee, and I sit there with my pups for about an hour.
By pups, you mean dogs?
My dogs, yeah,
Okay.
and Kita and Dash. And I sit there with them, and I reflect on the 24 hours ahead on what I want my day to look like, what I have lined up for the day, how I want it to go. And when I do that, and I start my day every day like that, my days always go okay, even when they're not, even when shit's hit the fan, But because that
every other day.
yeah, so every other day. But when I do that, no matter what, my days are okay, even when I'm not okay, they're okay. It's when I wake up half cocked and, fly out the door, have no time to prepare, and I'm just going, to where hiccups can happen. I can stumble a little bit. But yeah, meditation, I'd have to say, like, that is something I do for me every morning. That's how I get myself centered for the day.
So you physically sit in a stance and meditate? I'm unfamiliar with
Yeah,
this,
and that's
so.
what I was like. Well, so when I said, when I say that word meditation, that might be what comes to your mind, but no. Mine's just
I'm picturing Indian style, with the
Sure.
two hands out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's so mine's just starting out with prayer and meditation, but my meditation looks like, is when I sit there and I reflect. I take a moment. I'm present, because that's something I strive to be every single day. Because, especially in business, I'm looking at what my spring is going to be like, what my summer is going to be like. But remaining present, because we're not there yet. We're here. We're here today. So staying present, looking at the 24 hours ahead, prepping my day, preparing my day, planning my day. My days just go good.
I might have to take this from you. My days are more or less jump out of bed, go to work. Like it's straight to work.
Yeah, can't do that.
All right. So if you had to offer advice to somebody just starting out, what's the one thing that you would offer?
Have a solid plan. Have a solid plan. Because at the very beginning I didn't. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to look like, but step by step, it was kind of just like, well, we're doing this. And it was messy for me at the beginning. Hence, we talked about it earlier on just what transpired for me. So having a solid plan at the very beginning.
What should be in that plan?
Well, capital is always going to be important. I don't know what whatever business, you want to get into. I don't know what the capital would look like, but having, some form of a nest egg.
They say that, I don't remember the actual percentage, but it's a high percentage of businesses fail based on capital, right? So being undercapitalized is almost like a death sentence. You and I are kind of anomalies when it comes to this because I didn't have any fucking money.
Yeah.
You didn't have any fucking money. So it can be done. But most of them do go under because of capitalization.
Sure. Yeah. So, at the very beginning, my capital was low, but then what I needed to get by at the very beginning was low. So my industry was a little bit different.
Starting out in a service is one of the industries you can start smaller. So you can start with very little capital and you can grow that, over time. The difference is if you're capitalized that first 5-year period, right? You can be successful and you can scale up, but when you finally get to the 5 years, you're essentially starting where you would have started on year 2.
Yeah.
If you were properly capitalized.
Sure. That makes sense.
Who are, if you had to name 3 people that really contributed to the success of your business or that actually drove you, to go into business, who would those 3 people be?
Well, like I said, just the inspiration I had from my father at the very beginning, until I was 11, just seeing him out there every day, building his own. That was a huge factor for me. Seeing you, where you started, because I remember before you started this, when you didn't have anything, and just seeing what you were able to build and everything like that was motivation for me, because I was always watching. And I guess the third one would just be the rest of my family, for real. Because at the very beginning, the people in my family, the relationships I had during that time, they were just in my corner. They believed in me. They were rooting for me. They knew what I was capable of, and they just were in my corner. So it was motivation for me to take that leap.
So that's actually kind of, it's rare for a lot of people going into business. Families don't always support you, right? Mm-hmm. So you were blessed in that sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times I was too. Mm-hmm. I think that was instrumental for me too, was the fact that, my father specifically really supported me early on, and he really just pushed me, just fucking do it, Adam. Just fucking do it. Right? Yeah. So I said, don't take advice earlier from him, and I stand by that. but yeah, having that support is crucial, and a lot of people don't actually get that. So you're really blessed in that sense.
I agree.
Eric, I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak to any of the listeners out there that are contemplating going into business for themselves, and they're, maybe on the fence about pulling the trigger. What advice would you give them about going into business?
If somebody's sitting on the fence with it, I would say do it. I always, I got a buddy that I always make the joke, just do it. Be like Nike, just do it. But with that also being said, just make sure that you're prepared, have like we talked about earlier, having a proper business plan and everything, and just making sure that you are setting yourself up for success, and not just, going into something half cocked with just this idea and just excited and running out there. Just want to make sure that you have everything that you need at the very beginning, so you can try to set yourself up for success. But if you're on the fence with it, especially if you're in any kind of service industry, anything like that, and it's something that's like on your heart and everything like that, I think it's wonderful. I think you should go for it. And like I said, at the end of the day, even though I went through some trials and tribulations at the very beginning, it was the best decision I ever made.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find your business if they're located in Northeast Ohio and they're looking for your services? Share a little bit about, where they can find you and find more information about you.
Sure. You guys can always check out our website. We're located at www.unitypropertyandpest, all spelled out.com. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Our office number is 330-957-2178. Give us a call anytime. To schedule for all your home inspection pest control needs. We'd love to help.
I'd really like to thank you for joining me tonight, Eric. You've been a good friend of mine now for a couple of years, and I've really enjoyed our conversation tonight. It's really been entertaining.
It has been fun.
To our listeners out there, thank you for joining us for our first episode. We have more interesting content like this coming, and I'm hoping to help provide some insights to people out there that are either going into business, in business, or, trying to scale a business. And we have some more exciting interviews coming. I'm pulling from my network, and we have people coming in from all over the country on this show, and we're going to be hopefully doing a new episode every single month. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to seeing all of you soon, or speaking with you soon, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
I'm Refresh Man, and I'm here to empower you to take charge of your destiny. Are you tired of working for someone else? Do you dream of making a difference in your community and unleashing your full potential? Then look no further than Refresh Franchising. With us by your side, you can start your own heroic business venture with the unwavering support and cutting-edge resources you need to conquer your goals. Our franchise model is like a super serum that will give you the strength to succeed. Refresh provides extensive training, ongoing mentorship, and an established brand with a loyal customer base. Plus, you'll become part of a heroic league of entrepreneurs who serve as allies on your journey towards greatness. And the best part, you won't have to waste time building your business from scratch like some kind of neophyte. With Refresh Franchising, you'll hit the ground running at lightning speed and unlock the key to heroic financial success. So gather your courage, summon your inner superhero, and visit refreshfranchising.com to launch your heroic franchise journey. Always remember, together, we can achieve greatness.